And then, even further, they received threats for exercising their right to participate in Tuesday's statewide worker walkout. All while workers continue to carry out their duty to run every inch of this university. Students in Anaheim UW are the children and grandchildren of Filipino migrants. Like so many of the FNS workers, our families migrate and sacrifice everything, their time, their labor, their home countries, hoping to secure a future for us, only to arrive and be met with the exploitation and repression of institutions like UW. UW continues to foster partnerships with the institutions making our home countries unlivable, including the U.S. Army War College, Boeing, and Joint Base Lewis McChord. These are the same institutions that bolster U.S. military buildup in the Asia Pacific, leverage Jackson School research that contributes to repression of farmers and organizers in the Philippines and Palestine, and supply bombs to the fascist Marcos regime. In the coming weeks and months, we will expose the insulting wage offers and working conditions you push to new and returning students. Know that the campus's resurgent anti-imperialist, anti-war movement will and does stand with UW workers because our interests are one and the same. All UW workers, from food service to custodians to gardeners and plumbers, fighting not only for themselves but their families here and in their home countries. End Mission Forward, end the repression of workers, end UW's prioritization of war and profit over workers and students. Yeah. We will not rest until our communities see justice.
That brings us to our next topic. Isaac Olson, Brett Anton, Sarah Ahava Ezra Fernandez, Dara Hassanen, Ovia Krishnan. Please approach the table.
Isaac Olson. As an incoming grad student, the governance meeting yesterday was intensely disappointing, not just in its outcome, but in how the Board of Regents came to their conclusions. The Regents were confused about the specific divestment target of the proposal. They were told that we did not include a length of time to uphold divestiture. They believed that there was no mention of a negative screen until supplemental, and that it advocated for something out of scope with the rest of the proposal. I encourage the Regents to read pages 4 through 6 of the proposal, the very first written argumentation, where the demands are explicitly outlined, including a request for a refined negative screen applying specifically to companies found complicit in human rights abuses, and a timeline for how long divestment would last. The demand written in that section is what the proposal in its entirety is based upon. I remind the Regents that our community support upholds our stated demands, contrary to the apparent confusion in the room yesterday. I remind the Regents that Margaret Shepherd upheld the ASUW and GPSS resolutions as in step with our demands explicitly, and that the Faculty Senate Class C resolution lists Gaza as an explicit case for which they support investigating divestment, and that Chair McKenzie affirmed that the opinion of the Senate at the time of the vote was to support continuing the process of divestment. I remind the Regents that nearly every RSO letter included in our proposal begins by stating that they fully endorse the United Front for Palestinian Liberation at the University of Washington's demand for divestment, and that even as they offer unique perspectives for their support and sometimes advocate for different types of action, they remain explicitly in line with our stated demand. Using these perceived differences as a reason to delay is disingenuous and improper. I emphasize to the Regents that it is not anti-Semitic to investigate the question of moral reprehensibility regarding Israel leadership. No government should be able to violate human rights with impunity, and many Jewish voices are included in our movement and in this room. I remind the Regents that you, who are UW's current and future students, alumni, and donors, are more sympathetic to the Palestinian cause than any other generation, precisely because we have grown up seeing their suffering. I remind the board that our stated ask is to divest from companies facilitating Israeli human rights violations, which follows the on-the-books university precedent to divest from companies facilitating genocide in Sudan. If the board truly believes that it is improper to stand up against genocide because of the genocide enactor's identity, then they should ask why their own policies do not follow this precedent. And finally, I remind the board that they have called for special meetings in the past, including in November of 2021, for matters that they deem urgent. I remind them that deferring until March is unreasonable in the face of the ongoing genocide, in which every day our community is faced with the loss of more family, friends, and comrades. I promise you, we will not be the first to delay the advancement of action, and we will not go away until our cause is achieved.
Thank you. Let's hear from more commenters. I don't see Brett here. Who's speaking for him?
This is Iman Hassim filling in for Brett.
Thank you.
I must express my deep frustration and disappointment with the Board of Regents' decision to delay the vote on divestment until March. This delay is far more than a procedural setback. It represents a significant missed opportunity to take a decisive stand against clear and pressing injustice. Let's be clear. Voting for divestment will not create deep divisions within our community. The contrary is true. Faculty, graduate, and undergraduate senates have passed resolutions in support of divestment with overwhelming numbers. Alumni, students, and faculty alike have rallied around this cause through petitions and public endorsements. These actions reflect a broad, unified commitment to justice that transcends divisions. Let us not pretend that this is the first controversial divestment campaign at the University of Washington. An ASUW student referendum in 1986 on whether the UW should divest from the South African apartheid was opposed by 1/3 of voters. Right-wing members of the university community attempted to set off a firebomb amidst a peaceful anti-apartheid protest in the Quad. As testified by Students Against Apartheid to the United Nations, the President of the United States at that time, Ronald Reagan, explicitly even opposed divestiture. The UW chose to do it anyways, and is now praised for its commitment to human rights in the face of apartheid. Human rights organizations like B'Tselem, Human Rights Watch, and Amnesty International, I'm sure you've heard these names over and over again before, have unequivocally condemned Israel's treatment of Palestinians as apartheid. These human rights organizations, including the Israeli organization B'Tselem, welcomed the recent International Court of Justice ruling against illegal West Bank settlements, reinforcing a global consensus on this issue that even the U.S. government recognizes. Our universities' inaction on shameful delay on these clear-cut rulings, therefore, can only be interpreted as valuing Palestinian lives as less worthy of saving. It is not just an oversight, but a disservice to the values we claim to uphold, and a betrayal to the community sentiment that is sure to worsen divisions. Right now, UW campus is grappling with fragmentation and isolation. Many students feel alienated and unheard due to the university's failure to address the serious plight of Palestinians, to put it mildly. By postponing the vote, we are not mending these divisions. We are allowing them to deepen. This delay only prolongs the disconnect and frustration felt by those who are advocating for justice. We had a chance to lead with courage to affirm our commitment to human rights and to unify our community around a cause that reflects our values. Instead, we are left waiting in a limbo already 11 months into an aggression that hurtles forward due to little accountability, due to little institutional accountability that you all stand in the way of, and I hope that you can stand instead with us for. It's time for us to act decisively. We need to show that our university will not shy away from standing up for what is right. Let's not squander this moment of potential. We must rise to the occasion and demonstrate our commitment to justice and unity.
Commenters to observe the time limit so that everyone can be heard. We still have a considerable number of commenters to go through from all positions. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be with you all. My name is Yusuf Azad. I'm a Palestinian and unfortunately a law student at this university. The great Edward Said once wrote, The life of an Arab Palestinian in the West, particularly in America, is disheartening. There exists here an almost unanimous consensus that politically he does not exist, and when it is allowed that he does, it is either as a nuisance or an Oriental. The web of racism, cultural stereotypes, political imperialism, dehumanizing ideology holding in the Arab or the Muslim is very strong indeed, and it is this web which every Palestinian has come to feel as its uniquely punishing destiny. Since October 7th, the Gaza Health Ministry tracks that over 41,000 Palestinians are dead. Of that number, 16,500 of them are children. And these are now conservative estimates, because according to the Lancet, that number is estimated to be 186,000. And perhaps in your twisted, backwards logic, you might blame Palestinians in Gaza for their plight, as other Orientalists have in the past. But then look to the West Bank, and you'll see that since October 7th, 692 Palestinians have been killed, with 159 children dead. And now, a member of your own community has been killed by these same forces. If you do not feel shock, sadness, and anger, then you are all monsters. Someone yesterday told me that they've seen a lot of light fade from my eyes, and it's true. I'm exhausted. I'm tired of begging for you all and the world to see what we see. And it's not hard to see why. I challenge this board. Open up any Palestinian social media. You'll see babies blown to bits, or craters where missiles hit refugee tents, or images of schools and hospitals turned to rubble. If you have not seen what we've seen, then you are all willfully ignorant.
That's right. That's right.
One thing I've learned is that to be a Palestinian is to be cursed by this world with constant pain and misery. But to be Palestinian is also to have the strength, resolve, love, and compassion to keep fighting for what's right. However, I'm at my wit's end. The way we have been treated throughout this process has been incredibly disrespectful and disgusting. If you need more information about our proposal, we can provide you more information right away, as we have done so many times throughout this damn process. But to postpone the meeting months down the road is a big slap in the face to a community that's grieving. We've been playing by your rules and sacrificed so much for this process to do it the right way. I recall during the encampment, we disbanded being told this would be a streamlined process and that you didn't want to presuppose the question. I had hopes that we could achieve divestment together, peacefully and with respect. I wanted to do this for the love of this community, hoping as leaders of UW, you might share that same love. But I'm fucking exhausted by this bureaucratic bullshit. There's a fucking genocide happening. I'm someone who's always been so composed, so diplomatic, but I'm fucking tired of all this. Your time is running out. If you don't act now, you all will be remembered as the administration and board that burned this school to the ground. Thank you.
Program at the University of Washington, an officer in our campus Jewish Voice for Peace, and a Jew who lost family in the Holocaust. My Judaism compelled me to stand in solidarity with the liberation of all peoples, especially the Palestinian people, so that the horror that happened to my family is not repeated and repeated again. I am here today as a representative of hundreds of Jewish students, faculty, staff, alumni, and community members who refuse to allow the genocide Israel is currently carrying out against the Palestinians to happen in our name, and recognize that our safety is not dependent on the oppression of others. This feeling is confirmed for me as I work alongside UW students every day who have lost and continue to lose family members in Palestine. The actions of the Israeli government can only be described as a genocide that is by definition morally reprehensible. a genocide that UW is complicit in through its investments. The blood of Palestinians is on your hands.
That's right.
We know that divestment works. The original divestment campaigns on campuses worldwide in the 1980s were instrumental in ending the morally reprehensible system of apartheid in South Africa, and you, as the Board of Regents at the University of Washington, have the opportunity to end your complicity in yet another morally reprehensible system. In the aftermath of President Kelsey's agreement with the Liberated Zone to implement only the most compromised policy changes towards a more equitable and just situation on campus, a staff member of UW collected 900 signatures speaking against divestment. They claim to represent our UW community and the Jewish community. They charge us with anti-Semitism to shut down our movement for justice for all peoples. But the fact is, only 50% of these signatures had any affiliation with the university, and of that 50%, only 17 of these signatures came from Jewish people. In contrast, 3/4 of the 4,000 signatures supporting the petition in favor of divestment are UW affiliates. The fact is, anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism.
That's right.
Jewish safety, my safety, does not rely on a settler colonial state. To say that it is not just insulting, it makes us less safe. I am here before you today representing a rising percentage of Jews who say no more. Never again means never again for anyone. Never again is now, and we demand that you vote yes on the divestment petition put before you. We demand as Jews that UW, our institution, and its complicity in genocide. Do the right thing.
Thank you.
I'll be speaking about on behalf of Obia today. I want to express my profound frustration over how the Board of Regents has received our request for a negative screen to be implemented in regards to our demands to divest. Despite it being clearly stated in the introduction of our initial divestment proposal, we have reiterated the urgent need for a negative screen in a supplementary document. We have made our position clear. The negative screen must target companies actively involved in or facilitating human rights violations. This isn't a matter of interpretation. It's a direct and specific request. Our research list, which we have already submitted, identifies these problematic companies with concrete evidence of their involvement in human rights abuses. This list that outlined direct connections to the Israeli market should have provided a clear basis for immediate action. The negative screen is essential in ensuring that the UW holds corporations accountable until tangible change occurs, ensures our investments are clean from any other complicit corporations such as war profiteers like Boeing, and ensure the UW does not simply reinvest in complicit companies, as it did in the aftermath of its divestment from South African apartheid. However, instead of moving forward, we are now facing a delay in the vote to convene the ACSRI. This delay is not only frustrating but also unacceptable. It prolongs our institution's complicity in supporting entities that engage in human rights violations. We need to act now. The broader ESG criteria we provided are included as a starting point, but our proposal demands that the negative screen focus specifically on the companies flagged in our research. This isn't just about adjusting our investment strategy, it's about making sure our financial decisions align with our commitment to human rights. I am tired of urging you, the Board of Regents, to make immediate action. Implement the negative screen as specified in our proposal and based on the clear evidence provided. It's time to stop the delays and take a stand against companies that perpetuate human rights abuses. Convene a special meeting to take action on the ACSRI proposal and vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, may I have Hannah Nash, Navette Basker, Gwyneth Parmar, Sally Kane, and Carol Schiller to the table. We can bring the next person up right after, or
Yeah, the chair would be great.
Good morning. My name is Hannah Nash, and I graduated last June from UW School in Human Centered Design and Engineering. I studied and worked on campus through all the chaos, disruption, and anti-Semitism that swept through our university last year. I am here today to respectfully ask that you reject the divisive demands of the UFPL. I am speaking.
Excuse me. Everyone listen to you. You can listen to her. Thank you.
Including their demand for divestment.
That's favoritism. Stop.
Last year, our campus wasn't just divided. It became overwhelmingly hostile, especially for Jewish students. The environment created by their protests filled many of us with fear and anxiety. I experienced this firsthand. There were days when the hateful graffiti on campus was so overwhelming I had panic attacks. Just going to class filled me with dread. I felt so unsafe on campus that I switched to online classes at times. Not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't bear the thought of being there. I didn't feel safe, and I certainly didn't feel welcome. My identity, something I've always been proud of, suddenly became something I felt I had to hide. I was scared to wear necklaces signaling my Jewish identity, afraid of what people might say or do to me. Being Jewish is a significant part of who I am, yet I felt forced to suppress that part of myself out of fear of physical or verbal abuse. No student should ever feel that way at the University of Washington. Giving to the demands of agitators like the UFPL will only make this situation worse. These groups didn't just protest, they broke the law, vandalized our campus, and trampled on the civil rights of Jewish students. They violated the Board of Regents' state of ethical principles, which requires respect and civility. I urge you to reject their call for divestment and focus on improving the sense of safety and inclusion for all students, including Jewish students. We need to know that campus policies and rules will fairly be consistently enforced. Yielding to those who break the law will only lead to more division and fear among students. Thank you for your time and thoughtful consideration.
Probably look at some history and see what happened before that.
Please allow all those to speak. Everyone else was allowed to speak. We can make. Thank you. Please continue.
Hi, I'm Bob Sulkin. I was here in the spring, and I appreciate the time you're giving me to address this committee. And I appreciate your keeping the committee in this discussion ordered. This past spring, UW decided not to enforce an anti-academic policy that was designed to protect the safety of students, knowing that the victims of its decisions would be the Jews. And what made the decision, from my perspective, be especially egregious is that the university was well aware of what was going on, that there were violent statements made toward Jews, that there were anti-Semitic comments made toward Jews, and we know that because the president of the university in May wrote a letter to the university community admitting as such. Jewish students were subject to chants about not being part of this community. No Zionists should be allowed at the UW.
Excuse me, as chair of the board, I'm telling you that you're disrupting this meeting. If you don't allow other people to speak when you have the right to speak, you will either cease this behavior or you will leave the area. If you fail to do so, we may request that you're removed by university police. Please allow people to speak. That's part of the value of this the values of this university is that we can disagree.
Values? What? You want to talk about values?
Yeah. I'm talking about the First Amendment and the right of people to speak.
We're talking about genocide. We're talking about children's blood on your hands. Fuck the Corps.
Thank you. If we have another outburst, I'm going to ask the university police to clear the room except for those who are addressing the board. Thank you. Please continue.
I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Statements supporting Hamas, who killed Israelis, murdered Jewish women, raped Jewish women, put live Israeli babies in an oven to burn them to death, and beheaded them. This is This is the atmosphere.
Please allow this man to speak. You don't have to agree with it. You do have to allow him to speak.
I will say that the fact that they think that is false is a good thing, because they realize that if it was true, their position is problematic at best. That said, you folks would not tolerate hooded white supremacists chanting racist remarks, demanding that certain groups of students not be permitted on this campus. In fact, I don't mean to chuckle, but you have a microaggression policy, which I quote, in which you state that even a microaggression shouldn't be ignored. Making someone who feels bad by what you say is enough. In fact, it goes on to say, a comment like, if you were Jewish, you wouldn't do this. Or if you were, a comment about being gay, you wouldn't do this. Yet that's not permitted, but calling for violence against Jews is. A pinprick in a comment is not permitted. In fact, the policy says, don't take a passive approach. Make sure to validate and support those who have been targeted. And yet what the university has done is allowed one exception to all these rules, and that is the Jews. And there's a consequence to this. And it's a consequence I come here in the hope to avoid. Consequence one, the failure to follow rules, as we've seen, leads to disruption and can lead to more violations and violence. That's what happened at Columbia University when Hamilton Hall was taken over. That's what happened at UCLA. Second consequences, students don't trust the administration to protect them. And how that plays in here is that Jewish students are not going to report fully what's going on. Because rightly, wrongly, or indifferently, they don't trust the administration fully. Third consequence, you normalize Jew hatred and violence against Jews. And fourth, you're setting a precedent. If these folks can be in encampments, then the white supremacists can be in encampments. You cannot make a distinction. I understand your concern. You don't have enough police officers. You don't want a violent confrontation. I'm with you on it. But think about it for a second. UCLA, Columbia, Washington University have all said no more killings. And they understand if you nip it at the bud, you'll stop the violence. But think about it one step more. Let's assume there was violence because of this police interruption. What does that tell you about the encampments? They shouldn't be there in the first place. So to protect the students, whatever their opinions may be, whatever their thoughts may be, protect these students. There should be no encampments, no masks unless for religious or health reasons. You know, the reason the white supremacists wore hoods is because no one could identify them. That was the purpose. And that's, I suggest, is the purpose here. I appreciate your time. It all seems obvious to me, and I hope you do the right thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, please.
Annette Basker, the University of Washington alumna, postbac 2009, a proud Husky until the past year. Recent events on campus and the university's inadequate response have changed that. In February, I attended a public lecture hosted by the Jackson School of International Studies. The invited speaker, a distinguished retired ambassador, was repeatedly shouted down, and the talk ended abruptly. The event organizers treated the hecklers with utmost respect, politely thanking each of them for their input until they were each escorted out of the room. No such respect was shown to the speaker or to the hundreds of students and community members attending the presentation. A few audience members with a political agenda managed to derail academic inquiry and education. Like the encampments and protests last spring, the combination of an unruly mob and the administration's timidity violates the key key mission of the university to facilitate the exchange of ideas, providing an open forum for intellectual exploration and civil discourse. The issue goes beyond the hostile disruptions, the toxic campus climate, and the reputational damage. Last month, a federal court issued an injunction against UCLA for denying educational opportunities and equal protection for Jewish students. The judge called UCLA's conduct abhorrent. In response, the University of California, a public institution like the UW, clarified its commitment to, quote, free expression, speech, and assembly, along with time, place, and manner policies for protests and demonstrations. UC also clearly articulated the potential consequence, we call them accountability measures, of violating these rules. Dozens of institutions are facing similar lawsuits and Title VI civil rights complaints over accusations of anti-Semitism and alleged violations of Jewish students' rights. It doesn't have to come to that. UW has an opportunity to start the new school year on a better note. Please follow the UC example. I've submitted their full letter in to Tyler. Commit to upholding free expression, ensure that all students are safe, articulate clear policies, and consistently enforce them. Please help me be once again a proud Husky. Thank you.
My name is Glenna. I'm working in HR here. My colleagues and I operationalize the decisions that come out of this room, and we support and advocate for people behind me every day. I have 2 young children, so I'd like to keep lessons simple. When they try to wiggle their way out of their own commitments, I say to them, I'm not asking you to do what I say. I'm just asking you to do what you say. I'm saying the same to you. In June, I shared the missteps that got us here. Now our missteps are shaping our future because we don't have an action plan for this fall. The administration has taught all the folks behind me that they can cause millions of dollars in damage, break laws, commit hate crimes.
You're killing people. We're not little kids!
And run around screaming the wrong words, and that they are invincible. This isn't freedom of speech. Jewish students spat on, guest speakers.
If you do not let her speak and conclude her remarks, we'll ask you to leave. If you don't leave voluntarily, we'll ask the police to remove you from the room. Please let her speak.
Can I do this to the pro-Palestinian speakers?
Please let her speak.
Can I do this to the pro-Palestinian speakers?
Stop speaking.
We did the same for the Palestinian speakers. We give the pro-Palestinian speakers
the
right to speak without interruption.
And I agree with that. Can I interrupt the pro-Palestinian speakers because you're letting this happen?
No, you may not. We have people who ask to speak, signed up in advance. Please let them speak.
I agree.
I appreciate your point. I want to let them speak. Please continue. I'm sorry.
Thank you. This isn't freedom of speech. Jewish students spat on, guest speakers shouted down, false police reports, vilifying Jewish students, vandalism left unpunished. Your name, President Kelsey, covered in blood and words of genocide across buildings. I mean, honestly.
Let her speak, please.
And I don't have to go back to parenting analogies to point out that rewarding bad behavior makes more bad behavior. Other university regions, Colorado, Michigan, California, Illinois, have condemned this behavior. In action, we have not. We're rewarding extremists and criminals while those whose work was measured, meaningful, and patient got nowhere. I know that because I came to you with a document from 1,000 people several times, and no one had a moment to press reply. We're supposed to teach young people to be leaders, but as leaders, it seems like the plan is to wait and see what others are doing. In this case, even the others are taking a stand against anti-Zionist behavior, fed by stereotypes and our friends back here. You could be preparing this way for the fall. You could ban mass protests, just like we did for terrorists called the Ku Klux Klan. Instead, we've normalized chaos, and this is their coming-of-age drama. Obstruction is noble, destruction is glamorous, hatred and anger are the new pink, and we're at a lemming festival.